The Feast of Friendship. In a sun-dappled corner of a sprawling ancient wood lived two of the most unlikely friends one could ever hope to meet, a rat named Pip and a crab named Sheldon. Pip was a field rat, slender and quick, with whiskers that twitched with nervous energy and eyes that darted about, never missing a single detail. Sheldon, on the other hand, was a creature of the water's edge, a sturdy freshwater crab with a handsome patterned shell and large, kind eyes that moved with a slow and thoughtful grace. Where Pip was hasty, Sheldon was patient. Where Pip was excitable, Sheldon was calm. Perhaps it was their differences that cemented their bond, for they were the very best of friends and spent most of their days exploring the wonders of the forest together. One bright, clear morning, they decided to venture deeper into the woods than usual to gather dry twigs and fallen branches for firewood. The air was crisp and smelled of damp earth and pine needles. Birds sang their intricate melodies from high in the canopy, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting shifting patterns on the forest floor. "Hurry along, Sheldon," squeaked Pip, scampering ahead and then doubling back. "There are splendid sticks just past this thicket. I'm quite sure of it." "I am coming, Pip," said Sheldon, his voice a gentle gurgle. He moved with his distinctive sideways gait, his claws clicking softly on the stones that dotted the path. "Patience is a virtue. The wood is not going anywhere." As they ambled deeper into the woods, enjoying the peacefulness of their shared journey, a magnificent sight stopped them in their tracks. There, in a sunlit clearing, stood a papaya tree, tall and proud, and hanging from its crown, nestled amongst its broad green leaves, was a single perfect papaya. It was a glorious fruit, its skin blushing from a green to a warm sunset orange. It seemed to glow with an inner light, and it looked so succulent and smelled so sweet that it made their mouths water instantly. "By my whiskers!" Pip exclaimed, his nose twitching. "Did you ever see such a thing? It looks too good to be real." "It is real indeed," Sheldon confirmed, his gaze fixed on the prize, "and it looks far too delicious to leave behind." They stood for a moment debating the challenge. The trunk of the tree was smooth and tall. "Who will climb up and get it?" Pip wondered aloud, though he already knew he was nimbler. Sheldon, ever brave and willing to put his friend first, surprised Pip by saying, "Allow me to try. My claws are strong and will grip the bark well." And so Sheldon began his ascent. He was surprisingly adept, finding small crevices in the bark for his legs and using his powerful claws to pull himself upwards. He climbed steadily, his determination clear in every careful movement. Pip watched from below, cheering him on. But when Sheldon was halfway to the fruit, disaster struck. The bark he was gripping crumbled away, and with a sickening snap, one of his legs twisted beneath him and broke. He cried out in pain and slid clumsily back down the trunk, landing with a heavy thud on the soft earth below. He lay there for a moment, cradling his injured leg. "I cannot do it, Pip," he said, his voice filled with disappointment. "My leg, it is broken." Pip, seeing his chance, wasted no time. "Don't you worry, Sheldon, I'll get it," he chirped. With a flick of his tail, he scurried up the tree. His small, light body and sharp claws made the climb effortless. In moments, he was beside the glorious fruit. He nodded from its stem, and without a second thought for his injured friend below, he began to eat. The fruit was even more delicious than he had imagined. Sweet, fragrant juice ran down his chin as he devoured it with greedy bites. From the ground, Sheldon watched in disbelief. "Pip," he called out, his voice weak, "aren't you going to share with me? Just a small piece." Pip, his mouth full of papaya, did not respond. He simply turned his back slightly and continued to feast, gobbling up every last morsel until nothing was left but the skin and seeds. A profound sadness washed over Sheldon. It was not just the pain in his leg that hurt him, but the sharp sting of his friend's selfishness. Without another word, the crab turned and began to make his slow, painful way back through the forest, leaving the rat to his solitary meal. Limping heavily, Sheldon eventually found himself at the edge of a clear, bubbling stream. He rested for a while, letting the cool water soothe his aching body and his wounded heart. As he sat there, a flash of brilliant color caught his eye. Swimming gracefully in a deep pool was a magnificent fish, a big red snapper with scales that shimmered like 1,000 tiny jewels. Gathering his strength and his wits, Sheldon devised a plan. He patiently waited until the fish swam close to the bank. Then, with a swift and powerful movement of his good claw, he snatched it from the water and dragged it onto the grass. It was a splendid catch, and Sheldon felt a surge of pride. Just as he was admiring his prize, he heard a familiar rustling in the undergrowth. It was Pip, who had finally finished the papaya and, feeling a pang of loneliness, had come looking for his friend. The rat's eyes widened when he saw the huge, gleaming fish. "Sheldon," he squeaked, his voice full of awe, "that looks absolutely delicious." Sheldon looked at Pip, his expression calm and steady. He saw the guilt in his friend's eyes. He could have been angry. He could have kept the fish for himself, but Sheldon's heart was bigger than that. "It does, doesn't it?" the crab replied gently. Then he looked directly at the rat and said, "Even though you didn't share the papaya with me when I was hurt, I would still share my fish with you on one condition, that you promise to always share whatever you have in the future." Pip looked down at his paws, thoroughly ashamed. He thought of how wonderful the papaya had been and how much better it would have tasted if he had shared it with his best friend. He looked at Sheldon's broken leg and felt a deep wave of regret. "I promise, Sheldon," Pip said sincerely. "I am so sorry. I was selfish and I hurt you. I promise I will always share from now on." Sheldon nodded, a gentle smile in his eyes. The two friends, their bond mended and made stronger, picked up the magnificent red snapper together and headed for home, looking forward to the delicious meal that was waiting to be eaten. They both knew it would be the best meal they had ever had because it was a feast they would share.